Hello, everyone. Welcome to this first session of Dark Goddess Rising. Today, it's my honor to introduce our host, Noraleen Adele, to begin this sacred journey. Noraleen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much, Megan. So I am a dark goddess doula, and the simplest way I can explain that is that I hold sacred space for people who are moving through their own darkness and their own transformations. So I had a baby at the beginning of my Saturn return. This was
Oof.
like a month after Saturn moved into Pisces in 2023, and I was in labor for 3 days. So I obviously did not expect that. I had gone to all of my midwife's birthing classes. I did so much research. I knew what kind of environment my body needed to labor well. I knew that I didn't want a hospital birth because it would be harder for my body to feel safe and open in a space that wasn't peaceful for me personally.
Mhm.
But once it actually started happening and I started having contractions and labor began, all of that knowledge that I had gathered and everything that I knew, all of my expectations and what I had planned for, just totally went out the window. It was like a drop in the ocean. And through all of that, thank Goddess, my doula was with me. She had three babies herself, and all of them had taken like 50 to 60 hours in labor. So she couldn't have my baby for me, and she couldn't make it stop hurting or really make it easier. She didn't have like a secret hack for speeding labor up, but she stayed with me and she wasn't afraid. It didn't scare her that I was in pain. And she didn't tell me that I was like breathing wrong or, not getting into it in the right way. She just held space for me. She was there for me physically, and she was energetically very calming and steady. And so that's what I do for people who are birthing themselves, which honestly is a process that can be just as hard to make sense of as physical birth. Um, I feel like the information that's available for these kinds of really deep transformations has been really distorted and hidden and bypassed because it's not like bright and shiny,
Mhm.
and it does not serve the systems that want to keep us small and afraid. And I personally have been to just the absolute depths, and there is nothing about your pain or your process that can scare me or chase me away because all of it is real, and that's so sacred.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor of birthing yourself and being a doula in that way. I love that. So, what does the dark goddess mean to you?
So there are two different things that come to mind for this, and I want to start with the story of Inanna, who is one of the first goddesses that we have written records for. Inanna is the queen of heaven, and she chooses to descend into the underworld. So to get there, she has to pass through seven gates, and at each gate, she has to strip something off and give something up. So she loses her crown, her robes, her jewelry, everything that represents her power and her identity. And when she gets to the underworld, she's naked. So her sister, Erishkigal, is the queen of the underworld. And when Inanna gets there, Erishkigal hangs her like a piece of rotting meat, is a direct quote, on a hook. So it's brutal, and Inanna dies. And even though she chose to go down, she knew that this was going to happen. So she did not descend into the underworld without a plan. She had a divine attendant named Ninshabur, who was also kind of a goddess, but she was she was a support to Inanna. So she tells Ninshabur to watch for her return, and if she's not back in 3 days, then go to the gods and get help. So she knew that this was going to be brutal, but she planned ahead, so she wasn't doing it alone. And after she dies and her body's hanging there in the underworld, Ereshkigal, her sister, isn't celebrating. She didn't do this because she was petty or jealous or evil. She is down there grieving, and she's like groaning like she's in labor. Her back is arched, her hair is loose, and she's clawing at her belly. So she becomes the embodiment of this pain that's been buried. And Ninshaber sends these two small genderless beings down to help Inanna. And when they get there, they're not fighting with Ereshkigal and they're not like negotiating for Inanna's freedom. They literally just sit with Ereshkigal and they mirror her pain. So Ereshkigal is like, oh, my insides hurt. And they're sitting there with her and they're like, oh, our insides hurt. And so they're not bypassing it. They're not trying to cheer her up. They're literally just there with her, echoing her. And Ereshkigal is so moved by this, she tells them that they can have whatever they want, and they ask for Inanna back. So that's what clears the way for Inanna to resurrect and come back to the land of the living. And I think that's such a beautiful metaphor for us. When we enter our own underworlds, it helps us so much to have someone with us who isn't afraid of the dark, who's not trying to fix us or rush the process, and is just willing to stay and witness us and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the dark goddess means to me, not like some shadowy monster or outcast, but the part of us that has been silenced and punished and hidden, when we're called too much or not enough. And we exile those parts to survive. And it's also not just a metaphor. So, this is a very real energy that we can connect to, an archetypal force, and a presence that we can feel and work with and be transformed by. The whole point is being willing to witness these parts of ourselves that feel so dark and so uncomfortable and still be willing to choose to love ourselves anyways. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the magic that allows us to return to the light, and we're not coming back exactly the same as we were before, but we are more whole and more powerful and more sovereign because we have been willing to face those parts of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very helpful to put shadow work in a perspective of a myth or a story to kind of give you a guiding light to the process.
Yeah.
So why host this summit? Will you share what you think is most important for people to know?
Yes. So my background is one of a lot of trauma, physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse, narcissistic abuse, domestic violence. So I feel pretty confident in saying that I have experienced um, the full spectrum of dark feelings. And I cannot tell you how many times over my life, especially during my Saturn return and the past year or so, navigating divorce and being a single mother, um, I have felt like I would rather die than feel the way that I was feeling. And it's so wild because I look back on journals from years ago and it's like I had pieces of this knowledge. I knew how important it was to be feeling my feelings and not blaming myself. But I was still just so deep in conditioning and distortion, that it was very surface level. Like I wasn't embodying it. But even through that, I was never not on the path. It's just that the path is cyclical and nonlinear, and we can't hack it or shortcut it. Believe me, I have tried. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like most of the time, we can't even see it. We're just like trusting our feet to stay underneath us. And I don't want anyone to be afraid of the intensity or depth of shadow work. I don't want to make this sound intimidating, but I do want you to have the knowledge and support that can make your journey a little less lonely and, hopefully ease your suffering a little bit. If you know that what you're going through is normal and there's nothing wrong with you, you're not off track, you're not doing anything wrong, then
Yeah.
I think it can be easier to relax into what is, which is all there ever is. And there's also, I see so much popular spiritual content um, that is really inspirational and it feels really good. And I find it can also be misleading in the context of going through a dark night of the soul, or if you're in the like real nitty gritty of what it's like to be releasing and shedding and going through massive purges of programming that is not your true self. Um, Especially if you're healing not only your own lifetime or multiple lifetimes of trauma, but generational trauma as well. We cannot manifest ourselves out of shadow work because shadow work is manifestation. So if you're here, I have a feeling that you know exactly what I'm talking about. And like I said, I personally have just felt so alone and so worthless. And I've lost people that I love to suicide during their Saturn returns. So I feel it's really important to provide these resources.
Yeah. It's like the first step is even recognizing that these parts of you that we've kind of been culturally programmed to believe these core pieces are shameful.
Mhm.
Um, and that just causes a lot of grief and pain that we're carrying around without even realizing everyone else has it too. Um, because it's something we've been taught to internalize. So to have somebody like you hold space for those parts without judgment, it's like the first step in realizing that and having the chance to even see it from a broader perspective and realize and relax a little bit and realize that this shame is actually assigned to us and it isn't ours to hold.
Yeah.
Um, and by even having it, we're perpetuating it in culture without realizing it. So do you think that this realization could have a ripple effect as more people wake up and then kind of cast aside this cultural narrative that we've all been holding on to without even knowing it?
Yes. Um, when we are doing healing work, it's not just for us because nothing is just about us. We don't exist in a vacuum. So, not only are we healing multiple generations of trauma in our family line, but we are literally shifting the collective field. And I think that's so important. It cannot be said enough right now, because it can feel like we are up against so much. We are seeing very real and harsh consequences of capitalism, colonialism, white, male, human supremacy. Um, all of these false matrix implants that have kept us in this illusion of separation for so long. And we are witnessing this fever pitch of all of these things breaking down. And we have the opportunity to hold the line of knowing that this is the death rattle. Like we are living through a collapse. And it's so important for us to know our own capacity so that we can serve in the way that's most aligned for us. Um, when we are tending to our own darkness, that is revolution. And I know all of us want to see the new earth created and interrupt these deep patterns of harm and suffering that have been playing out in our collective reality. And to do that, we need to recognize that these systems aren't concrete things outside of us that we can go out and fight. They're systems of belief that are perpetuated by people. So there's no, structure of capitalism we can go out and physically burn to the ground. Um, Even the people who are the loudest and who are taking up the most space right now, representing oppression and harm, aren't actually the issue. They're just symptoms. So we're giving them more power by seeing them as, like larger than life. And they are just reflections of the whole, just like everything is. And they are examples of people that are upholding these systems by
Mhm.
decisions that are made every single day. So, dismantling that starts with the ways that we relate to ourselves and the people that we love and care about, and then that ripples out to the world around us. Um, and, in several of these interviews, we talk about how important it is for us to build and be in community right now. Um, and a really big part of that is doing our own internal work so that we're not replicating these systems as we're trying to, get away from them. Um, if we're not willing to face them in ourselves, then we end up just recreating them. And we can't escape anything. Whatever we're afraid of is what we're giving power to, until we're willing to really look at it head on and love ourselves anyways. And I think that you said this already, but the idea that, none of this is who we really are. So there's no shame in any of this, but it is so deeply important for us to be responsible for what we've internalized, if we really care about not continuing to recreate that.
Yeah, I love that. It's like an act of rebellion to be compassionate to yourself.
Yeah,
And the revolution is really inside of us. And the more that people can be exposed to these ideas and realize this truth, it can change the whole world. So I'm ready for that. I'm very grateful for you for putting this together. Um, so I'm sure that a lot of people are coming to this because they are in a dark night of the soul, or just feeling like they're at the bottom of a pit of despair right now. So um, obviously, you've told us that you've been through that too. So what is something that you most needed to hear when you were at your lowest or loneliest, feeling disconnected from?
I I just want to say that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not doing anything wrong. Um, a big thing for me was realizing over and over again, um, that nobody was coming to punish me. Like, I was not going to get in trouble. But really, just that I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Mhm.
Um, and the truth of who we are is this infinite, eternal love. And everything that has been heaped on us since we incarnated into our bodies has been trying to distort this truth. And it's such a beautiful gift for us to get to return to that knowing over and over again. Um, and it's so totally normal, just part of the process, that we do forget. That's just the cycle. And then every time we get to remember and be like, oh my God, this is like, yes, I remember this now. How did I forget this? But you might not feel like that right now. When you're in the part where you've forgotten, it doesn't feel beautiful. And you it might just feel like, fuck this. I will do anything if it means that I get to skip this part. I
Mhm.
have felt like that so many times. I have done so much bargaining. And that's so human and so understandable. Um, and I am also here to tell you that you will, without a doubt, get to a place that you are so wildly grateful that you chose to stay with yourself.
I love that. Um, is there anything else that you want to leave us with going into the summit?
Yeah, I will say that every single method I've learned, I have used at some point to try to bypass my own pain, to try to succeed at healing, or do it faster or better. Um, and the thing that has helped me so much after so much trial and error, is just going into it. So, whatever I'm feeling, instead of trying to soften it or escape it or fix it, like literally just get into it. And often that means getting into the part of me that really doesn't want to be here.
Mhm.
So I used to hear that and be like, okay, well that means I need to enjoy whatever I'm moving through. But if what I'm moving through is not enjoying where I am, that's the part that I get into, like the frustration, the resistance, the part that like just wants this to be over. That's what's real, and
Mhm.
that's what is here in the moment for me to be with. So not using processes as a tool to pretend like I'm okay or fake joy, or force myself to be somewhere that I'm not. And it's so paradoxical, but the peace that actually does come that feels like a relief is on the other side of pretending. Um, like it comes from accepting and celebrating that I very much don't want to be where I am right now.
Mhm.
And then that's where the enjoyment comes in, um, because I wasn't trying to force it, I was honoring the truth of the present moment.
Mhm.
So it sounds, I know it's very nuanced, but just truly, wherever you are, just be with where you are in whatever capacity you can, whatever you have, whatever internal resources you have available to you. And when you can't, when you can't be with what is, or you've done, you feel like I can go halfway today, and then like there's a gap here. Fill in those gaps with radical self love and radical self acceptance, and just give yourself permission to be where you are. And for me, that means watching The Office for the 57th time because my nervous system needs a break, and accepting and like holding that that is just as spiritual as journaling or meditating. And if you don't have the capacity for the deep work, honoring your limits is the deep work, and it's the kindest choice for yourself. You can hold all of it, including the feeling that you can't hold all of it.
Mhm.
Um, and also, asking for help, whatever way is available to you, calling out to the goddess, calling out to source, calling on your ancestors, or reaching for someone human, who can either physically or, over the phone or over FaceTime, be with you and hold space for you and walk with you. And I am also here for you for that. I'm here to support you, and the women in the summit are here to support you. And my intention is for this to be a healing place that reassures you that you are not alone. You are never, never alone.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really just a radical idea to even understand that feelings are meant to be felt. I think I was in my 30s before that clicked for me. So I just appreciate what you're doing so much, just bringing this enlightenment to us all, so that we can all, work on ourselves and become healthier and happier people. Um, so thank you so much for opening this space and guiding us through this path of descent with the dark goddess. And to everyone listening, may today's conversations be an invitation to meet yourself with compassion, courage, and devotion. The journey begins here, and you are exactly where you need to be. We'll see you on the inside of the rest of today's sessions.